introduction. I'm going to mute everyone as well. And then we'll have the opportunity for everyone to unmute themselves afterwards, or especially if you're going to ask a question. But our guest speaker tonight is Akeim Mundell, awardee of the British Empire Medal for his work with young people in particular. Akeim is a teacher, he's the head of year, he's a pastoral leader, and he is a community activist. Done a lot of work with Black young people and is going to champion the story of Black young people for us tonight. So Akeim, it's a pleasure to welcome you tonight. And
thank you very much, Warren. Thank you very much.
All yours, pleasure. Thanks.
Brilliant. Good afternoon, everyone. And Marika, I'd just like to say thank you very much for inviting me on today. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you hear me, Warren?
We can't see you, so if you want to turn your video on, that would be great. If not, we'll just listen to you.
Right, no problem.
Akeim, you're welcome. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much. So Marika asked if I could speak, and when I asked Marika what the topic must be, and she said on my experience growing up as a Black young male in the UK, I used the opportunity over the weekend to reminisce and to think back on my experiences, and I was able to put down a few experiences that I've had on paper. And I'm glad that I've got the experience to finally share these, because over the past few years, I've not really, I would say I've not really spoken about the topic, because each time I think about the different situations that I have experienced, I sometimes just prefer leaving it aside. So I was very glad that Marika has given me this opportunity to share. One of the experiences I've had is from a young age. I would say when it would be raining and I'd be on my way to a destination, I always feared putting my hood up. So I would instead walk in the rain and I would get drenched. And this was due to an experience that I had when I was 6 years old. And I remember it like yesterday, because since this day, I fear putting a hood up. So I was riding home on my bike, coming back from youth club. It was when Mosside and Adventure Playground was on the other estate where I live. And I was riding home and it was pouring down in rain. I had my hood up because it was very wet. And automatically, I just remember being pulled off my bike by 2 police officers. My legs were just dangling in the air. The bike went fluing. And I was so shocked and so scared, because I wasn't sure as to why this was happening. The 2 police officers at the time, they looked at my face and they said, "Oh, no, it's not you. We're very sorry. We just saw that you was a young Black boy and you matched the description that we were looking for." So at the time, I remember I was very young, very scared, frightened, but I do remember, back in my own corner and saying, "But I'm riding my bike. How can you see my description from behind?" And from that moment on, I remember just being left at the corner of my street with no support, with nothing else. The police officers just got into the car and left me at that point. I remember going home, sharing this story with mum and dad, and obviously I live in a very supportive household. But since that day, no matter even now at the age of 26, I fear putting a hood up, and I will not put my hood up either. Another experience I've had is, and I still have it up to this day, I've had it from a very young age, and I still experience this up to a few weeks ago. I'm a shopaholic, so I'm always in the Trafford Centre, Lowry Centre, town. Each time I'm behind someone, or each time I'm walking past someone, they would grab their bags or just begin checking their pockets. And I always take this very personal, because I know that I do not give any individual a reason to do this. I maybe shouldn't say it myself, but I believe that I'm a very happy individual. I love meeting new people. Whenever I'm shopping, whenever I'm on the streets, I'm always smiling, I'm always cheerful. So I automatically believe that this could be, is it because I'm a young Black male? Is it because there's often stereotypes out there in the media and newspapers about, about thefts and about things that have happened? But I automatically take this very personal, because I believe that no matter what situations happen out there, each young black male or black individual should not be, judged on what stories have been portrayed out there in the media. Another experience I want to share, and this is an experience that I would say I battle with up to a few months ago, and it really, I would say it really affects me. In my spare time on a weekend, I do like to meet up with friends, and we'd often, I'm still young, I think, 26 years old, and we do like to still party a little bit. When me and my friends are getting ready to go out, we always make an effort, always make sure that we're in a shirt, always make sure that we're in smart shoes. And even when we're trying to enter a bar or trying to enter a club, we automatically think, okay, there's four of us, we're in a group, we may come across as intimate. People might see us and think, oh my gosh, there's a group of boys, they might think we're intimidating, let's split up. And we automatically split into twos. Sometimes we even have to invite our female friends out with us just to try and make the group look a little bit better. However, we still get told to step aside when trying to enter a venue, when trying to enter a club, a bar. Even up to a few months ago, me and a few of my friends were even denied entry. And we were denied entry into a restaurant because they said that we were loud and we were intimidating. We get given no explanation other than not tonight. There was an experience that I had. Some of you may have seen a newspaper article that I was in. It was last year about a nightclub in town. There was a conference for all the ambassadors in England that took place in the city centre last year. And a few of the ambassadors came out. So there was one from Luton, one from London, one from Yorkshire. And because I was in charge of hosting them and making sure that they were looked after over that weekend. So the conference was on the Saturday. We went for some food after the conference. And then we said, well, let's go into a bar and let's have a few drinks before they go back to their city the next day. And I remember we contacted one of the bars in the city centre and we reserved a table. They said how many people. We even paid our money up front. We paid for the table. As we got to the bar, they said, can you guys step aside? So I made sure I said to everyone else, let's step aside, let's hear the reason why, let's give them the opportunity to say what they have to say. And it got to, we were stood outside for another hour. At this point we were becoming frustrated, but we're trying not to show it because we're thinking, why are we still outside an hour later and all these people, everybody else is walking in? And the club said, right, you can't go in because there's too many males. So I said, okay, no problem. And I said to everyone, let's step aside. I just want to watch. I just want to observe and to see how this venue are going to, how they're going to operate. Once we stood aside, there were 5 groups of males, 5 groups of white males that were given entry into the club. Bearing in mind, there's a dress code. We were all in dress code. The dress code is shoes and shirts. We were all in dress code. All these individuals, or I'll say majority of these individuals that would then gain entry into this bar, were not in dress code. They were, being very loud, much more loud than we were. We were not even being loud. We had just left the restaurant. And I remember trying to not make a fuss out of it. And I said, can I speak to the manager, please? The manager came out. I said, okay. I said, I've been told that, we're not allowed entry because there's too many males. I've just witnessed 5 different groups of lads, all white males who have gained entry without any form of hesitation. I said, I now have a video. I've taken a video which I've taken on purpose just for my documentation. I said, is it possible that we can be given our refund for the table? And the manager said no. And that was then when I just went onto the social networks and I had posted a tweet about it. And that's when Manchester Evening News then contacted me and they issued an article about this. A month later, this bar was then closed down because apparently there was several more issues and several more reports that were put in place. But you know, when I think back to these different experiences that I shared with you guys, I've shared 3 to 4 different experiences that I've experienced within my years of growing up. I'm 26 years old. When I was growing up, you know, my grandparents were, they've experienced the whole Windrush scandal. They came here into England from the Caribbean, and they've witnessed all this, and they've experienced racism on a big scale. And as a young boy, I remember always listening to these stories from family members, and I always used to think, oh gosh, that's not good, is it? That's not nice. But I never thought that I would actually have to experience it. And even in, you know, like I said, some of these experiences I still experience up to today. And when I qualified as a teacher, I think that one of the reasons why I believe that I am a good teacher is because I share my experiences with the young people. And the reason why I share my experiences with the young people is because I make sure that all my students are aware that, look, no matter what you face out there in the community, in the streets, do not allow that to take control of the individual that you are. And despite the different, you know, racism experiences that I've experienced, that does not, you know, it doesn't hinder how I am with other people, despite me feeling a certain way and feeling that I'm often judged on a daily basis. That does not matter. And when you look at my friendship group, I have friends who are from all different races. I have friends who are white, who are Asian, who are Chinese. It does not matter. And these experiences does not affect the way how I am and, you know, how I am with other people. But it does affect how I feel inside. And that's why I think it's important that, you know, individuals who are in education, we need to be honest with our young people. We need to share our experiences, and we need to be there as a guide for them, because often we have these discussions in lesson, and the children will ask me questions. Oh, sir, how did you feel? What did you do? And when I explain what I've done, and when they find out that I've not done much about it, they say, why? And I try to explain to them that I like to share my experience. I like to share the journey and to share the story with other people, and just to make awareness and to, you know, champion the fact and to share that racism is not over. Racism is still continuing. And, you know, with 2020, times moving on, I think it's important that we work together. We try and show how much we love and respect one another, and that we show that, you know, racism isn't something that should still be here, because no matter what, you know, we're trying to live, we're trying to create a better experience and better communities for our young people. And yeah, that's my experiences. If anyone has any questions, or if they want to, if they want to share their experiences, or if anyone has any words of wisdom, or even any words of advice that I can bring back to my students, then I'm 100% open to that. But yeah, I'm just really glad that Malaika has given me the opportunity to finally, you know, to speak about what I've had to go through over my 26 years of life. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Akeim. That was very eloquent, very powerful, and unfortunately, I'm not surprised by the stories you have told us and your experience, and it's very painful to hear that, yeah, a young man like you has experienced that. We know it goes on. There are stories today in the paper of people being apprehended by the police because they are black. Respectable people in society, responsible members of society, who are stopped because of the color of their skin, and experience prejudice in other ways. Yeah, I'm sure that's not the only club, bar, or restaurant that has, sort of done things like that to you and to many others. I have one hand up at the moment. Elizabeth, I'm assuming want to ask a question?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I really wanted to say thank you to Akeim for being there. I've been a tutor at the Manchester College, working with some young people who haven't particularly done well in education, you know, before I came to this job, really working within the church. And it was a regular occurrence that certainly I identify with everything he's said, and I really am glad that he's talked about those day-to-day experiences. I think it's important to hear it from you, and only reflect that as a woman, actually those same things happen to us, you know, a group of young women, black women who go out together, who that's how I go out in that group. We also wouldn't be let into a nightclub, so those same things happen. So it's something that, you know, it's a drip all these things, and I think that's very true. My question really, and it's not so much a question, I guess a comment as well to Akeim, is have you thought about doing going in, I know you're BEM, I don't really know what that means, but certainly when I was doing the Prince's Trust, I mean, I looked all over for somebody to be a young role model to the young people I was working with, who had often been in pupil referral units or were ex-offenders. And, you know, there's a lot of discrimination that goes on within that college situation as well, where you'll find that, you know, if there's a knife that's found, they'll accuse the young black boy. There was once a counterfeit note, it straight away went that it was the young black boy who'd done it. And actually one of the guys who I've been working with almost left the course because of it. And these things are a drip, it wears you down. And I think that when they hear from someone like you who's done it, and you've gone all the way and you've become a teacher, that's fantastic. And, you know, what was it that kept you going? It sounds like you have a good background at home, but, you know, first of all, have you thought about being a mentor for those young people there on the Prince's Trust? I think they'd be very glad for you. And the other is what kept you going? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your experiences as well. Yeah, I would say I've done some mentoring previously, but not with Princess Trust. So I will definitely get in touch with them, because I've heard very good things, and I see the different opportunities that they have on offer. Even, like I said, I'm willing to, you know, support young people who need that extra push or that, you know, that inspirational talk throughout school holidays. I'm willing to do that. I don't mind. So I will get in touch with Princess Trust. I think what it was for me that kept me going is just wanting to prove people wrong. That's definitely what it was. And honestly, you know, like I said, it's interesting, because when I was in school, I remember when I said, they always ask the question of, oh, what do you want to be? And at the time I said, I want to be a doctor. And I remember probably about a large amount of members of staff just laughed. They said, you want to be a doctor? I said, yeah. They said, but you don't listen, which is the truth, because in my experience in high school, I didn't listen. It took until I got into year 11, which made me realize that, wow, time's moving on now. It's my final year. I need to do something. And that was then when I knuckled down, and I don't know how I managed to do it all in 1 year, but that year definitely 100% changed me. But even though I didn't become the doctor, because I wasn't really aware of how many years of study it entailed, when I said that I wanted to become a teacher, I was doubted about that. And they said, you want to become a teacher? They said, but you know, are you sure that's what you want to do? Are you sure you're going to get to that point? And on purpose, that was what I continued to study. I joined the education field really in 2010. So straight from high school, I started volunteering at my old primary school, St. Mary's, and they took me as a teaching assistant. And when they took me as a teaching assistant, the head teacher there was my year 2 and year 3 teacher. And she said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give you this teaching assistant job, and we will support you to do your degree part-time in the evenings. and they done that. So straight away, the moment it got to 2012, when I got to that 18-year-old age, I done my degree, thanks to St. Mary's. And then straight after my degree, they said, why don't you go and do your master's? We'll support you to do that. I went back and done my master's. And then after I'd done that, they said, why don't you do your PGC? I went back and done my PGC. So all my years in primary, I think it helped when you have an individual that believes in you, and that wants to see you succeed and wants to help you to basically show others wrong and to prove the media wrong. It helps, and it was down to the push and the determination. And also, like I said, I've come from a very strict household. Dad being an army man for 15 years, mum being a social worker as well. I didn't really have that opportunity to go down that wrong path. They gave me time in high school to find my way. And year 7, year 8, year 9, parents always coming into school, oh, Akeim's not listening, Akeim's not focusing. I feel like they gave me that opportunity to say, right, we're going to give you that time to be a child, but then we're going to step in. As many of you will know, I had a very close friend of mine called Jesse who was murdered when we were in school. So when that happened, my main group of friends decided that, look, we need to do something. We need to go out there. We need to try and get revenge on who the individuals were who killed Jesse. And I remember coming home saying to my mum, right, my friends said, we're going to do this. And my mum and dad said, no, you're not. And from that point on, they absolutely had me grounded to the ground. And they basically said, look, instead, what you should do, we're going to buy you a laptop. And at these times, not many of us had computers and laptops and internet in the home. That was a big thing. If you had a computer in your home 10 years ago, it was like, wow, your family had money. But they invested and they said, right, we're going to buy you a laptop. We're going to get internet. What you're going to do, here's 2 email addresses. We've made you an email address. Write down some ideas, do a proposal, send your proposal to these email addresses. And, rather than you just going out there to get revenge, go out there and do a project, create a project that young people can be involved and can do something good, rather than them, being out there on the streets and making the wrong choices. And that was what I'd done. And then that's how I began to work with the council, began to end up working with the police who, I once didn't even trust or once didn't even want to work with. But I had to put my, views aside, and I had to do what I felt was best for the younger generations coming up. I have a lot of cousins, a lot of nephews, nieces, and I just thought, when I was growing up, there was a lot of gun and knife crime happening. Like I said, a lot of stereotypes. Mossad, M16 was always in the media, despite how many positive individuals there was in Mossad and in the M16 postcode doing great things. Those things were never on the headlines. Those things were never on the front of newspapers. But the moment there was a shooting or a killing, they were on the front of the newspapers, even though those things were happening in every area of Manchester. It wasn't just Mossad. It was happening everywhere, but it was only Mossad that those things were being showcased. And that was why I then began to do bits and bobs in the community. But sorry, I feel like I've waffled on about your question. That's what's inspired me, just simply wanting to prove the media and to prove people wrong. Sorry about that, Warren.
That's not waffling on. That is very much part of the story. And it's encouraging to hear the positive support you got from your parents in terms of the way that clearly that's helped you to be inspired to make the difference that you have. And yet you've seen so much of the negative as well that so many black youngsters have experienced. Thank you. It wasn't waffle in the slightest. It was great. Someone mentioned on chat to me earlier that we could have Akeim on speaker view. I have put Akeim on speaker view, but if it's not on speaker view on yours, you can, from the top right hand side, the top corner of the button, put speaker view as opposed to gallery view, and you will get Akeim in full dimension there, sort of answering the question. So if you haven't got him like that, he's worth seeing and looking at. He's a handsome fella. And the next question, I think, is probably Rita's. So Rita, would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Hi, everybody, and hi, Akeim. Really inspired by your sharing today, and thank you so much for coming and sharing. But I was also deeply saddened and moved when you were sharing about your childhood and the fact that you have to live the way that you do. You're worried to even put a hood on, or, you know, not to think, having to even think about how many people should go into a club and how you should divide yourselves up and things like that. They seem like little things, but they're not. It's like every moment you're having to think about things that a lot of people don't have to think, a lot of white people don't have to think about. And I know, I love all your positivity. I love the way that you share. I love the way that you have had, you know, great parents that have shown you different ways of dealing with things. Not everybody has that. And I wondered what my question is, I know there's a part of you that wants to prove everything wrong, you know, that people are wrong and it's the way they stereotype and everything, but I wanted to understand what you do with those feelings, right? Like, what do you do with that anger and resentment and sadness and pain and stuff that comes up? You know, all those little moments of things that can build up. I know you have found a positive way in some ways, but where do those feelings go, and how do you share those feelings? How do you help the young people that you work with to deal with those feelings? Because they can't just go underground, right?
Definitely.
So I just wondered how you deal with feelings and the young people that you work with.
Thanks for that, Rita. I would say one of the ways that I deal with the I would say some of the anger and the way that I feel is by putting it down on paper and trying to bring out a positive in the situation. So, for example, that issue that I've just told you about with, you know, the entry into the bar, what I done is weeks later, I contacted the bar, and I just wrote them a paragraph and I gave them some points of advice. And I said, after that, I said, is it possible that I'm willing to come and meet with the bar manager just to discuss how, you know, how this venue operates? And what the guy done is a bit of a delay, but 4 weeks later, he did contact me and he said, look, I'm open to a conversation. And I went down to meet with him and he gave me his views and I gave my views, but I tried to basically share my understanding and my view onto how many us Black individuals feel. And although because what he was saying was, just as an example, he was saying, you know, sometimes we just have to act on what we believe could happen or the negatives. And I said, yes, but as a venue, I said, as an establishment, that doesn't help, because what that will then do is, I said, for example, we were, let's say, 4 individuals who don't have any form of aggression in us, but it could have been a different group of individuals that could have touched in a different way, which then would have recreated a negative situation. So I always say to my young people that I work with is, instead of taking your anger out at that moment, take your anger out on paper, put it into writing, create something, for example, create a poster, create a project, bring something to mind of what you would like to do or what you would like to see happen from that situation. And that's simply what I always do. So, for example, our young people, there was an incident in February where a bunch of because my kids at school, I treat them like they're my own kids. And I've not got no children, but I have children, they are my children, and that's how I champion it. And that's simply because I work in a school that is very, there's a lot of, let's say, as the word's now BEM, there's a lot of BEM students in my school, but there's only one representative from that culture group, which is me. everybody else in the school, member of staff wise, is white. So I have a strong connection with a large percentage of the young people or our students in school. So each time something happens in the community or out there, they often come into school to tell me. So there was an incident where a bunch of the young people, they basically said, "Oh, Mr. Mundell, we went into the corner shop and we were rushing because we were trying to get the bus. And when we rushed into the shop, the shopkeeper said we're banned." So obviously I did laugh at the time. I said, right. I said, okay, why did they say you're banned? They said, well, we were rushing in because we were trying to get the bus. And I said, okay. I said, so what you can do, I said, this afternoon, come and meet with me after school. And I said, I want you to write a letter, yeah, and to explain yourself in that letter. I said, I will personally go over and hand that into the shopkeeper. And they all met with each other and they all came with me to hand that into the shopkeeper. And the situation was resolved. So sometimes I feel like, even though I know that these situations can get you very angry, because like I said, I've been there, and it can make you feel so small inside, but there's a certain way to deal with things. And I think for me, the better way to deal with it is to put your, to put your view down on paper, yeah, to give your advice from a young person, because sometimes these establishments and sometimes these, adults, and I'm sure each of you will admit, sometimes it helps just seeing a situation from the eyes of a young person. And even me, I still class myself as a young person, but sometimes when a younger individual tries to explain their view on a situation, it takes me back and it enables me to see how they see situations as younger generations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akeim.
No problem, Lauren.
I know, Sherry, you had a hand up earlier. Do you still want to ask a question?
Yes, thank you, Warren. Are you hearing me?
We're hearing you.
I wanted to commend Akeim for sharing that, his experiences with us in such a manner. Akeim, I just wanted to give you a quick scenario of what happened to my son and what you think how you would have dealt with the situation. So basically, my son was at the shop coming back from school. An very old lady fell, and he helped her. Her shopping fell, her bag fell. He helped her up and put her on the seat and was packing up her groceries when her grandson came and assumed that my son had tried to mug her. So he came quite aggressively to my son, but the old lady was stopping him, saying to her grandson, no, he's helped me, So out of his shame, he gave my son £20. So what would you have done in that situation? My son took the money, but
Yeah,
when he came to tell me, I was like, wow, how that could have been so nasty in case the grandmother was like not conscious. He could have been, attacked, and he's just trying to help. So I wanted to know how would you have dealt with that situation?
Wow, that is, wow, well done to your son. Definitely well done to your son but in that situation, what I would have done, because sometimes I feel that sometimes when you try to tackle a certain situation, it can sometimes result in you being the aggressive one. Yeah, and I'm saying that from experience of when I've tried to share my view or to have my piece, and it because someone else is talking and they're getting their view across and you're trying to explain on top of them, it can sometimes create a bad image to others who are around. But it seems like, from what I'm gathering, it seems like your son had decided to do what I would have done anyway. So if that was me, I would have remained calm, even though I know how hard it would be, because your son would know within himself that he's doing the right thing. Clearly, he's been brought up in a certain way to, if you see someone struggling, if you see someone in need, then to help them. But if I was his son, I would have continued to remain calm until the grandson has finished getting his view across or saying his piece of palaver. And then I would have explained myself, and I would have explained what I would have been doing, or the reasons as to why I've stepped in to help the grandmother. Because, you know, this is a situation where I can see that this grandchild had arrived and had just, unfortunately, stereotyped your son. Obviously, seeing him on the floor or seeing him helping with the shopping goods, assuming, jumping to conclusions. Once again, I think this is where the media comes into it again, because the media does portray, you know, when you look into the media and when you watch the news, it's always these kind of stories that are showcased on there. But I think what I would have done if I was your son, which it seems like he did do, is I would have stayed calm until the situation, or until the grandson had finished speaking, and then I would have explained my view on it to hopefully hope that the grandson would have come to some understanding. And hopefully the shopkeeper or the member of staff that was in the shop would have been able to see what had took place. So I would have maybe had approached the shopkeeper for some support in that situation, because clearly, how old's your son?
He was 15 at the time, and it was
15
outside the
years
shop.
old. Exactly. So, you know, for a 15-year-old to try and get his point across with no support there, it can be very difficult. But this is where I would have thought that, you know, the member of staff in the shop would have supported your son with this, to say, actually, you know, I've witnessed it and this is what happened. But definitely in that situation, I would have, if I was your son, I would have remained calm, and I would have explained myself once the individual had stopped speaking. But then if I was you, then I would have absolutely covered my son with some love when he came home, for the simple fact of how much of a difficult situation he dealt with. And I'm sure that you would have been so proud at the fact that he had done what you would have brought him up to do. Because my parents, they always tell me the same thing: if you see someone that's in need and if you can help, you definitely help. So I'm sure you would have given him that, you know, some love once he had returned home.
Yes, of course I did. I was proud.
Definitely. But tell him that I said a big thank you as well, because it's good to hear. And these are the kinds of stories, what I'm trying to say. These are the kinds of experiences and stories that are not shared. And these are, you know, I won't mention names, obviously. I don't know your son's name, but if it's okay, am I able to share that with my young people that I work with?
Yeah, definitely.
Because, you know, when we're delivering PSHE and citizenship, and when we have our discussions, our group discussions, these are the types of scenarios that I like to put across to get the young people's views and to see what they would do in that situation. So I would love to be able to share that. So thank you very much for sharing that with me.
And his name's Shay, by the way. You can share
His name's Shay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Akeim. Another wonderful response with a wonderful example as well. I see Fayette's hand is raised. I also have 4 other questions that were asked on chat earlier as well. But Fayette, do you want to go first? And we'll see if we've got time for the other 4 afterwards.
Okay, hi Akeim. Thank you for sharing with us. I've found your stories about trying to deal with everything in a positive thing quite uplifting, because I think it's very, very easy to get angry and defensive, and even you know, the lady was talking about her son helping, and it's sometimes even in a family you might want to tell your kids, don't help, just stay out of it, because you're going to get into trouble. You're the one that's going to get in a position. So it can become very easy to be defensive. But what I'm actually interested in right now is with the Black Lives Matter movement and the marches that have been going on around the world, and particularly in Manchester and in England. I mean, I think a lot of white people really don't understand the marches and are really against them, and just see, again, the majority of people are very peaceful and just making a statement. But because there's a few people who are looting and are attacking policemen or are pulling down statues, then people get very defensive because they feel their culture is being attacked. And then they say, you know, all the Black Lives Matter, they dismiss the whole Black Lives Matter movement. What I'm interested in is what your position is on that, and how you think we can turn the marches into some positive action, not just keep marching. And because I'm not completely, to be honest, against the statues being pulled down and all of those things. I think protest has proven to work in the past. Manchester is an example of that with the issues of the suffragettes. The suffragettes were not peaceful. They only got where they got because of the actions they took. But you seem somebody very calm and very calculated in how you respond to things. So what do you think about the Black Lives Matter movement in terms of protest and how far that protest should go? And what do you think the media's role is in how they portray that? And how do you think people who not necessarily take part in the marches can turn that into different action that's a positive action? What kind of projects can we do that will really seriously make a difference?
Thank you. I would say that the Black Lives Matter initiatives and the protests that have been happening, I've attended two in Manchester, and when I attended, I saw a large proportion of my students who were there. So I thought, okay, what I'll do, I'll walk with them and, you know, have some conversations as we go along. I'll use this now as the opportunity to, you know, to see their views and their vision on it. One thing that's worrying to me is, as we all know, it's not everyone that has the understanding as to why the Black Lives Matter initiative is now happening. And I think the media could do a better job in trying to help others understand why the protests are taking place, by sharing the story behind it, because it's not everyone that has been involved in in the Black Lives Matter initiatives, and it's not everyone that has a big enough understanding of the whole racism impacts that have been happening. So I've not really been a fan of the way that the media have portrayed it, because I believe that a lot of the articles and a lot of the videos that I've watched and read, for example, they may not be 100% negative, but when you look at the pictures from the marches that they've used as the header picture, they've not really showcased it for the fact of why everyone is actually out there protesting. So what I've done for my school is, when it happened, a lot of my students were, let's say they were saying, look, some said, yeah, Black Lives Matter. Some said all lives matter. I don't understand why this is happening. So what I've done is, I got in touch with a handful of individuals from the community, and I asked everyone to say a piece. On why Black Lives, in other words, what the Black Lives Matter initiative means to them and about their experience. And I asked them to get it into 30 seconds. And then a local poet called Linford Sweeney wrote a poem about Black Lives Matter, and we edited it into a piece. And I believe that piece was more inspiring to all, because our school, we've got 560 kids. That piece was more inspiring and made more sense to the young people that I work with and their families, more than any piece of media form did. So I think it's helpful if we've experienced such things such as the whole Black Lives Matter initiative. It's helpful sharing your experience and sharing what it means to you with others, to allow them to have an understanding of how much it means to us. Because unfortunately, we can't really rely on the media to do that, because like I said, there's been some articles that have been supportive, but there's been more that's been negative, and it does make it look as if, many are just out there writing about, oh, Black Lives Matter, and it's like, some of it has perceived like some are saying and making out like, our lives do not matter as well. Yes, we know they do, but unfortunately, we're trying to make a point at the minute that Black Lives Matter, because unfortunately, it's the Black community that have been, let's say, that have been experiencing more hate of late. So I think it's definitely more powerful sharing your experience and sharing what it means to you in order for young people to see it from a different view. Because unfortunately, you know, there's a lot out there. And this is what a lot of young people have said to me. They said, I had about 10 young people that have said, oh, Mr. Mundell, I've deactivated my Twitter. I said, oh, why? Because every time I go on there, it's just negative stories and it just makes me frightened. This is what's happening. A lot of young people are now deactivating social networking sites because the moment they're going on there, they're just seeing negative stories and they don't really know what to support or what to believe because they don't have much understanding of it. So I think it's down to us who have had the experience and us who have much more of a wider view on it to share our experiences with the young people in order for them to have other experiences there that they can, you know, think about and hopefully then gain an understanding onto the situation.
Thank you, Akeim. Incredibly full and forthright answers to some long and complicated and quite difficult questions. You're doing well. I'm going to try in the last, and hope we've only got about 3 minutes left, to see if I can combine the remaining questions into 2 questions. And I think the first one, Julie has actually said, you said earlier that you found it hard to talk about your experiences to people. And she's asked, what makes it hard for you to talk to white people about the daily racism you experience? And I'm going to combine that with a question from Asha. What do you think the root cause of discrimination against blacks, and particularly young male blacks, is, and how can we address the matter? And I think also in some ways it's tied up with that, how are you coming to terms with black history, in particular slavery? So just a quick 3 questions to answer in 1 minute if you can.
Okay, can you just can you go to the first question again, please?
Yeah, the first bit was sort of linking in with the sort of how you find it hard to talk to people, and how why do you what makes it hard to talk, especially to white people, about the daily racism you experience?
I believe that because I believe that because a lot of a lot of the racism that I've experienced has been a majority have been from white communities. I sometimes feel, I would say, a little bit anxious and awkward about having those conversations with other individuals from the white community, because I don't automatically want them to believe that I have a certain view on, you know, because previously I've had white individuals that have said, oh, I hope you don't think that we're all like that. And I'm saying, no, and I know as a fact that, you know, it's not something that, for example, how all white people feel. It's not that. But unfortunately, the experiences that I've had and that a lot of the young black males that I work with or hang around with are from white communities. So I automatically just don't want individuals to feel that I believe that, you know, it's white people as a general, because it's really not. As I've said, I've got a lot of white friends. I've got a lot of people who I class as family who are from white communities as well. It's just unfortunate that what I'm trying to do is, no matter, for me, it doesn't matter what color our skin is. It doesn't matter where we come from. It doesn't matter our ethnicities. We are all one, and we should all be one family. And that's what I'm always trying to share. And that's my view on it. I want us all to be connected. I want us, you know, we're all here for a purpose. We're not here for a long time. Yeah, we're here for a short time. And in my view, we need to make most of the short time that we're here, and to just live as one and to love each other. And that's why, you know, I don't see one another as, okay, he's white, she's black. I see us all as human beings, and I feel that that's how a lot more individuals need to look at it and need to put their differences across, and just need to give that time to be one and to create as one family. Can you go on to the other question again, Warren, please? I think we've got 1 minute left.
Yeah, it was in connection with the root cause of discrimination against blacks, and particularly young black men, and also coming to terms with black history, even
Yeah.
slavery.
I think the root cause for me is definitely the media, and it's definitely the way how the media has portrayed um, past experiences and Black history. For example, I'm going to move on to the Black history point though, because I'm more powerful. I have a more stronger belief on that. I viewed, I put something on Twitter the other day to say that I'm not sure as to why we have a Black History Month. And that's me coming from someone who works in education. I champion this, I say it all the time. We should not have a Black History Month. Black history should be taught in all lessons. Black history should be embedded into the national curriculum, not just in October. And why is Black History Month in October? Why has October been made Black History Month? It doesn't just have to be taught in history classes. Black history can be taught in food technology. It can be taught in music. Black history can be taught all year round. And I'm not sure as to why that has not been embedded in the curriculum yet. But one thing, a reason as to why I'm proud of my school and I'm proud that I work there is because we don't wait for Black History Month to teach Black history. Black history gets taught all year round. And that's by choice. And we don't have to do that. As you know, it's not in the national curriculum to be taught all year round, but it needs to be. And I feel that by Black history being embedded into the national curriculum and by schools teaching it on a regular basis, that will allow other people to, for us all to support one another, for us all to work with each other. Like I said before, my view is we are all one. No matter the colour of our skin, no matter our ethnicities, we should all be working together. We should all be working as one family. But by Black history being taught in lessons and by, Black individuals feeling that we've got that equal understanding, we're being given that equal opportunities, I think that will definitely help to change things within the education system.
I think you're so right. I agree 100%. I was going to say more than that, but as a former maths teacher, I have to stick to the 100%. But yes, I agree totally. And the final comments, and I'm aware we're now slightly over time, but there are a few people who have commented. There's so many positive comments about you on chat, and sort of admiration, and holding you up in this example. Please come back, stay involved in that our stuff. We want you. But is there anything about your faith, your upbringing, that helped you through this? And what message do you have for people of faith, for faith communities, about grappling with this whole issue of Black Lives Matter?
I'd say my faith has definitely helped. Faith has definitely helped me to make the decisions that I've made up to today. I'm from a Christian background. I was a regular churchgoer up until the age of 18. When I got to that age where it was like mum and dad said, oh, it's up to you if you want to go, I stopped going as regular as I did. But I still pray every single night. I still attend church. I still speak to my church family. And one thing that I was taught in church from attending Sunday school every single week from birth right up until the age of 18, I was always told to forgive. I was always told to forgive, and I was always told to not hold grudges. And like I spoke about earlier, when I spoke about the bar where I had that experience of us being turned away, not being given a refund, like I said, many people said to me, Akeim, okay, you've already shared your story with the media, it's been put in the papers now, why are you going out your way to even meet with the venue? Why are you going out your way and using your time to even write an email to them? And I said, I'm doing that by choice. I'm doing that because I know how they've made us feel, as a group. But despite that, I don't want any more other, individuals from the Black community to attend that bar and to be felt and to be treated the same way. So therefore, if I can share my view on it, and if I can give that venue some advice on what they can do, then I'm going to do that. And that was one of the reasons as to why I contacted them to meet with them. And like I said, I didn't have to do that because I felt really intimidated, very embarrassed. I felt ashamed at the fact that, you know, I had guests who I were hosting from different cities, and the first time they had ever attended Manchester, this situation happened. But I thought about my experience at church, and I thought about the story that my pastor always used to say to me, and you know, and that was from conversations where I'd tell him about, oh yeah, I fell out with this friend, I fell out with that friend, he'd done this, he'd done that, I'm not speaking to him. And my pastor would say, why are you not speaking to him? You need to forgive. I'm not telling you to forget, but you need to forgive. You know, don't hold grudges, put things aside, and if anything, treat every single experience as a lesson. Treat it as a lesson, learn from it, and move on from it. And I've always lived with that, and that is why, like I said, each time I've experienced these different racism experiences, I've ensured that it's not stepped in and it's not changed me as an individual. What it has done is it's made me even more stronger.
I think we can see that. And thank you so very, very much. I'm going to hand over to Jane in a second just to wind up and say a final thank you. But it has been a pleasure and a privilege hearing you talk with us this evening, inspiring us. The number of people who said they would wish that you had been their son's or daughter's teacher or youth worker or other things here. We are full of admiration. You have won 46 friends at least. In fact, there are probably more tonight. And we very much look forward to sharing this journey more with you if you're happy to be there with us, because we still have a lot to learn from you. And I think we need, as members of faith communities, as individuals and with our faith communities, to take on board a lot of this and to help move beyond some of the prejudices and the attitudes and behaviours that you've clearly come up against and other young people do. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. Jane, do you want to say anything, as you clearly are one of his biggest fans from some of the things you've put on as well here?
I am indeed. Akeim, thank you so much for sharing that with us. As a fellow youth worker, I just admire you.
Thank you, Jane.
The next weeks are hopefully build on what we had last week from Malaika about her experience of the criminal justice system, and from you tonight. Next week, we're inviting a Black woman who has involved herself in local politics, dared to stick her head above the parapet, and she'll be explaining her personal perspective and receiving our questions. And then after that, Beatrice Smith, who's a Black woman who's a leader in a white church, will share her experiences and reflections, and she's spent a long time thinking about how to help white people understand the white privilege that they live with. So do join us on this journey. We've planned 7 sessions, and we're hoping that this will lead together to a small piece of action that will make us commit to being part of the change.
Brilliant.
Good evening to all of you.
Thank you very much, Jane and Warren. Thank you, everybody. It's lovely to meet you, and I hope to see you all next week.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. God bless. Have a great week. Thank you, Akeim.
Peace be with you.
And you too.
Ask if you want quickly.
Hi. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to see you. Glad you could.
Hi. It's Fudge, the drummer.
I can see you. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad.
Good, good, good.
Nice.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace be with you.
Right, I think we lost Malaika. So, okay, God bless everyone. Great seeing you all. Thank you very, very much.
Bye-bye, Vizzy. Bye, Kestra.
Hey, baby.
See you next week.
Take care. Thanks, Jane. Wish Andrew well. and better.
Yeah, thank you. That was a quick one.
Are you with your parents at the moment? So you're,
No, we go in the morning.
right, okay.
So thank you for this evening. I thought that was superb, really.
He was brilliant, wasn't he? So,
yeah, back on track.
glad Malika suggested that. So,
Thank
okay.
you. Some
Preferred to have a
people,
chat beforehand.
some people have been asking about where we're putting the recorded versions. Have we decided that? How we?
I will publicize the link that we've got on Zoom so people can actually look at those. But I think as well, we're going to see if we can actually make clips from them, and actually we'll put it on our new website. Having learned this afternoon, Khadija and I learned this afternoon how to put things on the website. I'm going to encourage Khadija to start playing around with this and getting some of these things on. And it might even be we set up to make some YouTube clips from them as well.
That's great. Thank you for being on this steep learning curve.
Well, the whole lockdown's a steep learning curve, and hopefully for the better. So, okay.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Take care. I'll see you soon. Thanks, Jane. See you, Vissy.